You're welcome.
Fair play to you anyway. It was good to
just for
tug
doing some
out,
exercise.
How's your fitness these days?
I don't know really. It's a while since the last.
It's always a worry when you don't know.
The game for Axel and the rugby game last year.
And how did you? Were you blown hard?
Blown, but I wouldn't say hard. Not too bad. I do a bit of training now and
Do
again.
you? Yeah? What are you like?
Just a bit of running
Gym?
here and there,
Right.
yeah, cycling, stuff like that. Spin
How are the
classes.
joints?
Sore-ish.
Are they? Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not too bad. I like doing it. But
Are you,
the competitive side is gone at this stage, I'd say, of competing in anything or...
You wouldn't do like sort of fellas of our age are into like triathlon now and all this sort of stuff. That it's
No.
not
And,
happening.
there's an Irish group, actually, the lads going to Bermuda next month for the 15s tournament, very famous one in Bermuda. So there's an Irish team going out there. I was asked to go, but I couldn't go, which is a good thing.
Get to, I mean, don't mention the war here, but
Not a good example.
but you're doing different sports, so you're not sort of. There shouldn't be that repeat
don't
thing.
know.
I'm thinking here with poor old Dave. Have you got the Irish Independent there on? There's one thing that we wanted to mention at the top of it, Quinny, because you were in with us obviously last week.
On Monday.
And you were giving us the lowdown on Monday about your take on Nigel Owens and Simon Zebo. And then I pick up the paper this morning and I see Alan Quinlan. Why Nigel Owens was right to tell off Simon Zebo.
Yeah, there's a bit of a change in my approach to it. I think initially it's not really necessary, but with respect to Nigel Owens, I think, and look, I did say on Monday he's a fantastic referee and he's a great bloke and stuff, and I just kind of went, just kind of like, let him off, it's not a big thing, just get on with the game, let them sort it out themselves. But I was wrong, because I did my research after that. I know there was a bit of furore about me saying that, and was I right, was I wrong? I think social media, you look at that and it's the kind of divided opinion on people's opinions on it, that he was wrong and he shouldn't have done it, and other people saying it's a storm in a teacup. I was kind of leaning that way, and I was kind of saying maybe there was no need to draw attention to it, but I was wrong because I did some research, and World Rugby have given all the referees a directive about gamesmanship, unsporting behaviour, riling up the opposition guys, and keeping to the rugby values of the game. And I think, in fairness, he's been exceptional at that, Nigel Owens, and he speaks a lot about it on the field. His achievements and what he's reffed and the matches he's done speaks for the type of referee he is and how good he is. And I think reflection, it was his business, because I suppose I still feel it's a very small thing, but I think I probably wasn't thinking of the bigger picture and what it can maybe lead on to. In other words, it can escalate possibly another incident. Somebody can go after Zebo after that from the... And, there's a lot of good control in that. I was on breakfast this morning talking about, and I make no bones about talking about the respect not just players have for each other, but players for referees, the opposition fans. Part of our whole journey and integrate with the crowds all over Europe and stuff, and rugby is great for that. There's no violence, there's no abuse. I think you could probably say some of the Munster-Leinster games and the height of the battles and the rivalry, there'd be unsavoury things said here and there, but never an issue over safety or anything like that. So rugby's a great game, and its inclusivity is fantastic.
Do you think World Rugby worried about it? Is that why they've given the directive
no,
to referees?
I think one of the things is to keep those rugby values strong and stay ahead of the pack and be a kind of a pace setter in good practice. So in other words, good practice of handshakes, respect for each other, the old rugby ethos of having a beer after the game, going in afterwards, both teams have a meal together. Not every time, because some of the Pro 14, you're in and out, you're on a chartered plane, you're back home on a Friday night, but that old ethos that people mix and they kick the crap out of each other on the rugby field, very physically sometimes, and then everybody comes together and puts it behind them. So I think that kind of those rugby values have always been there. I think even if I go back 20 years ago and I go to club games in my own county in Tipperary between local clubs, I've never seen any sort of kind of, there's always been a respect there, even though sometimes matches do get out of hand and they used to be a lot rougher. But nowadays I think rugby has set a great trend in sport about discipline, transparency about discipline and video refs and all that kind of stuff, and punishments handed down. You look at Danny Cipriani, he got 6-week ban for what wasn't an intentional kind of hit on Rory Scannell last week. It was reduced to 3, and then you look at some of the GA stuff where an official runs in off the field and he gets 8 weeks. Rugby sets a good standard with their disciplinary action. And I had plenty of issues with my discipline. Fabian Pelouse kicked me up the arse in 2008 in the final. Did I have to fall on the ground and make a bit of a meal out of it? Probably not to this extent. But my justification was there. He kicked me. So he has done something that he shouldn't have done. He actually literally kicked me in there. Now, maybe the reaction is a bit dramatic. So if I don't kind of grab my backside and kind of fall backwards a bit, is he not going to get penalised for kick? Is it
just
fine?
slides by?
It's like a soccer player. Should he dive in or is it a penalty if he stays up?
I think Rivaldo, the 2098 World Cup, 2002 World Cup against Turkey. Pretty much that, like when the ball was kicked at him.
So none of us are perfect on the field, and the rugby values thing. Some people kind of say to me, "Oh, geez, these rugby values, this, that, and the other thing." But it's a very topical subject and conversation this week because, like I said, and like I was doing in the breakfast this morning, the GA president has come out saying he wants to condemn the violence in the GA. What are they going to do about it? I guarantee if that's in rugby, that official coming into the last weekend in that game, he's getting a 6-month minimum or 12-month ban away from all GA games. So it's not personal for me against him, but what kind of a message are you sending out?
Exactly what
that someone can interfere and stuff like that. So rugby is good in that way. And I was on the receiving end of punishment sometimes when I felt, it was disappointing or too severe, or maybe and that has happened, players. But rugby's disciplinary stuff has gone from, maybe issues back in the 80s and 90s where you see international matches, even going to France and playing in Paris was, borderline on violence at times, or even club games there in the 90s in the early days in the Heineken Cup were out of control. That the discipline now is really strong. And that's the message you're sending to younger teams, amateur players. And so Zebus, going right back to the start, I didn't see the bigger picture, the message that it kind of sends out. Nigel Owen saying, apologise. It's not even the apology, it's basically saying, what you did there is wrong. And we don't want that in our game. And we're pretty proud of the way the game is run and the values that the game has. And here are the messages that World Rugby are pushing home to the players, the referees, particularly this year. Because that bit of drama, and we've seen a little bit of a creep into rugby, that has to kind of be stamped out.
Does Pelouse come up to you afterwards and say, "Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have kicked you up the hoop"?
No, I think at the end of the day, he probably knew that I broke probably one of the most disciplined rugby players ever to play the game, and that was the big slag afterwards, that I broke all my own teammates' heads over the years, most opposition players, referees, and now I was after breaking probably one of the most calm and controlled players of all times. But look, we had a conversation afterwards, and it's water under the bridge.
What was said?
Well, I felt a bit guilty, obviously.
Right.
Anyway.
And so you said to him,
well, he kicked me. I was there, like, you shouldn't have kicked me, but my reaction's a bit more, and he kind of knew that. I think he was probably angry at himself for.
Was he angry at you?
Probably not angry. Yeah, a little bit, but not too bad. That he was happy to talk to me and have a laugh, and to have a laugh about it. But that's kind of some of that psychological warfare stuff. That there was a bit of pushing and shoving before that with Byron Kelleher, who was quite an intimidating figure, a very strong player for Toulouse, and he was kind of shouting at Nigel Owens, trying to influence the scrum, and I kind of stood talking to him, and Pelouse got involved. There was a little bit of shoving, and it was kind of stand your ground scenario, and that happens in rugby, and that we like to see that in sport. Like you were saying, the two players going at it a bit, and that's kind of that kind of psychological. Where a bit of banter sometimes, the bit of banter has done, it's checking your kind of desire and your will for the fight, if you like. So it's not to just throw names at people, or insult people. It's
Have a bit of a prod in the
kind of
poke.
letting the opposite, your opposite guy know that, you won't break me today, whatever.
Couple of stories we wanted to talk to you, touch on with you, and I know your parking has run out there 3 minutes ago, so hopefully you don't get clamped.
It's not till 9:35. We can do it again anyway.
The Ireland squad is named obviously 34 players for the 42 players for the upcoming November run. It'll be cut to 34 obviously for the World Cup if the last World Cup is anything to go by. Rory Scannell not in, Ultan Dillane not in. What's your main sort of takeaway from this squad?
It's a very strong squad. It's no huge surprises. I think Will Addison been in the mix, and I did a piece a few weeks ago on the Indo, 12 months out from the World Cup, saying who were the kind of bolters that can make a push, because when you put down the names for this World Cup squad, 95% of them pick themselves at the moment. Now things will change a little bit with some injuries and stuff like that, so I think he's certainly someone that can kind of propel himself into the mix. Will Addison, he's been very, very good and very talented player who can cover a lot of different positions, and I know Joe Schmidt likes him. I think Sam Arnold getting in is good for him. He'll learn a lot. I think he's improved as a player. Will he start and go to the World Cup? It's probably unlikely, but I think he will grow. He's still a very young player. I'm disappointed for Ultan Dillane because I like him as a player. I think he's
gone backwards a bit, Quinny, has he, over the last...
Yeah, look, he had a tough year last year personally with his mum and stuff, passing away, and it's difficult. But I've liked his reaction this year. I think he's a real barnstorming, aggressive, energetic player, and someone who I wouldn't rule out a contention of getting back in the mix again. But there's a lot of depth, there's a lot of power there, and there's a lot of strength. Chris Farrell is obviously someone I think who would be in the mix if he wasn't injured, but there's a lot of quality in that squad, isn't there? There's a lot of depth there now. When you think you can pick 42 players at this stage, and I think it looks like it'll be a B team, a second string team that'll play Italy next week, and probably the team he'll pick, you'll look on paper and you'll say, yeah, they're good enough to go and beat Italy's first side. So I think that's the whole key of probably Italy. Argentina and New Zealand will be full strength, and then USA will be back to a little bit of experimentation and see how guys develop for Joe Schmidt.
You said that the squad kind of picks itself to a certain extent. A lot of positions in the team pick themselves as well, but one of the disagreements I think myself and Joe were having the other day was the second row. Does Ty Burns start and you're strongest starting 15 at the moment?
No, not at the moment. I think to be fair, he's a phenomenal player, and the versatility thing might be an added benefit to him when it comes to a World Cup squad, but it might be a negative then when he comes to starting in the team, because there's so much quality there. Like it's those back five positions. I think you can't, like Devin Toner and James Ryan have been phenomenal, and I think Toner has kind of find a new lease of life since Henderson's come on board, and James Ryan now, because he probably realises that, you know, one slip up here, one below par performance, and, you know, I'm out of the team. He missed out on a few selections of the World Cup in 2015. Henderson is someone who brings so much to it as well. And they're kind of similar. James Ryan, Tyburn, Henderson, they're all abrasive, full of energy, loads of footballing ability, high tackle count, high carry count. They're not kind of one specific strength, if you like. Their all-round games are phenomenal. He's someone that could easily slot in beside James Ryan or Henderson or Toner and have a phenomenal impact. And it was an area a couple of years ago that we were concerned about when Paul O'Connell went, when Donncha O'Callaghan went, when, you know, that depth has been... Donncha Ryan has kind of gone out of the mix as well. So I think he's certainly someone that could start, but on paper, I think, unless things change, the strongest team that you'll pick for New Zealand or for even Argentina is probably the one as close as you can that'll finish to the team that finished over in Twickenham, or even finished the third test or started the third test in Australia.
Before we let you go to rescue your car, 15 years to the weekish of your Argentina try?
15 years to the day.
To the day?
26th of October.
Wow.
2003.
Just pre-breaking the shoulder.
You can see both shoulders intact there.
Yeah, and you can see the left one then just starting to make its way out, and then it's
You didn't even feel it probably at that, or did you at that point where you were? I mean, you were.
I did. I felt it all right pretty much straight away. But
you were still had the.
Thankfully, I was able to just place the ball.
The shoulder is gone before you grounded the ball.
Yeah.
Right, you kept it.
Just
kept it together.
I think it's just a reaction thing.
Yeah.
Then, oh Jesus, oh my goodness,
a bit.
What is after?
No, straight away. That's it's done.
Is the pain unbelievable?
Yeah, it was. It was incredible. It was incredible now, to be honest. And someone said it's like it's kind of it's what women feel when they have a baby. That kind of pain when your shoulder pops out.
Yeah.
And but
that's good dad cast material right there.
I've heard that before, but anyway.
Fair enough.
I don't know. It's.
How's the shoulder now? Is it like we were talking about your limbs?
I've no lateral rotation. I can only go back to here,
right.
So it's still kind of all stitched and.
You just make your peace with it. So have you hardware in there?
No, it's just all kind of stitched up, and
right.
and it was just made a lot tighter to keep it some bit of stability there. I kind of had to adapt the way I played after that on my left side and stuff. But the arm can fly out, no problem. But it's just that rotation. Stuff like that is difficult.
Not easy to tap fellas in the head when you're sort of a little bit less.
I'm very surprised at you, my lead commentator with Virgin Media, saying that to me.
I'm surprised. I would be surprised that it's never happened.
But that's perception again. How many red cards have I got in my career?
Not enough.
I'm going to say on that basis none.
Zero. I knew it was zero.
Yeah. But you would maybe think that I would have been. But anyway, that's perception. I'm always fighting at my defence. But look,
when you're explaining, you're losing, Quinny.
I know. A lot of the situations I drew on myself, wrong place, wrong time, all that kind of scenario.
Listen, good chatting as always. Thanks a million. Hope the car isn't clamped. Alan Quinlan there as always with us in OTB AM on a Friday.